Hey, George, you there? What's up, broski?
What's up, broski?
How you doing,
How you
man?
doing, man?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. The Steelers are 1-0. I'm
They
doing
are.
great. The
They
Steelers are
are
1-0.
one now. And I have to say that to my surprise and to your surprise, I think I can reveal that we both thought they were going to lose.
You think?
Uh, it. I think that
Us two, and the rest of Stiller Fan Nation TV.
Yeah.
Stiller Fan TV Nation.
Yeah. I think there were a lot of people who thought they were going to lose. There were some diehards and some people who I think are delusional who thought they were going to win, but their hope or confidence wasn't based in reality.
It was
I,
cool.
I,
They
I
drink
think,
the Kool-Aid, right? They're homers.
yeah, I think the biggest thing was that Burrow didn't play at all in the preseason, and he looked very rusty. But before we start this episode, I just want to say to everyone watching right now, first of all, thank you for watching.
Thank you.
I appreciate the fact that you've tuned in. Right below the screen here, right where the title of this video is, click the thumbs up button, okay? I watch a lot of YouTube channels for my soccer team, Arsenal, and all the guys in London all the kids say, smash a like, okay? So smash a like, hit the thumbs up button.
And I think if you do that, you're guaranteed to get good luck for 7 years. I think so.
Yeah, maybe even more. Maybe a lucky Dan Marino 13. I don't know. But smash a like, people. So also, if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. And then in the comments below, type a comment. Even if you just type in some stupid emoji, that counts as a comment. And in today's social media platform world, likes, subscribers, and comments go a long way. So please do all that. All right. So George, great to have you back. I can't give an excuse as to why I had a preseason Stiller Fan TV. I had 2 preseason Stiller Fan TV episodes and then nothing. So I got to get more consistent with the content. I get that. But anyway,
we're here.
The Steelers, as you said, are 1-0. They beat the Bengals 23-20 in overtime. It was one of the craziest games I've ever seen. And for those of you who are watching out there in Stiller Fan TV land, I went up to Seattle to visit George, and this is now going to be kind of like an annual pilgrimage where
it's got to be now.
Yeah, I know. Where he and I watch the Thursday night opener together, and then we watch the Steelers opener together on Sunday. And this is the second year in a row. Last year they went on the road and beat the Bills. This year they go on the road and beat the Bungies, and they're 2-0 since we started this ritual. So now, last year it was the inaugural. This year is the second annual. So next year will be the third annual. So hopefully they'll go 3-0. But
got to keep it going now.
Yeah, what a crazy game. That's the craziest regular season game I can remember in a long, long time, if not in Steelers history. From what I remember.
For me, I mean, and this, I'm not embellishing this, that's the craziest regular season game I've ever seen. And
Steelers or just period?
Well, Steelers, it's right.
Yeah, right. Well, no, I guess my question is kind of it's kind of a rhetorical question because who cares about other teams? It's about the Steelers.
I mean, how many lives were there, right? And in that overtime, my goodness, would you have? How much money would you have put down on? McPherson isn't, Martin Grammatico with a blown out ACL, right? I mean, he's coming off one of the greatest playoff runs in history. His confidence had to have been sky high. And even though it wasn't his fault, necessarily, you wouldn't have put money on him missing two chippies, not one chippy, but two chippies in overtime.
Yep.
My goodness.
Yep. Unbelievable. So, so a great win for the Steelers.
And you know what? And I almost didn't see it because when they lined up for that extra point, I told you to turn off the TV and I walked away.
Yeah.
I
So
walked back in and there's smiles in the room. I'm like, what just happened?
So everybody, I just give you the setup. So George got this awesome gazebo. All right, he's got fans and heaters on both sides and lights, and he's got this big flat screen TV, and he's got an L-shaped couch and a grill and a bar, and so he's got the awesome setup in the gazebo. All right, and and I admit I was too. But he's doing a little more pacing, and he's pacing around his house and going out into his yard. And there were times I had to
of course
call him to get him to come in from the North 40 to watch the game because he was wringing his hands and pacing during a commercial. But when the Bengals scored to tie it up at 2020 with what, I don't know, 5 seconds left in overtime or not, or sorry, regulation, 5 seconds, 2 seconds, whatever it was, he's like, turn it off, just turn it off. And he walked inside. And I do remember that you and I, from rewinding a couple of plays, we were probably 30 seconds behind.
Mm-hmm.
So as you walked inside and slammed the door and went into the kitchen, I said to your wife, Valerie, I was like, well, I don't need to rewind it. I'll just fast forward it and we'll get live, and then it'll go to the next game. Well, as I rewound it and it went live, I saw live McPherson line up and Minka block the extra point. Unbelievable. And then of course that led into all the overtime drama. Unreal game. Just an unreal game.
And those stories are fun, and you guys are probably yawning at this point, but everybody's got those stories, right? I'm sure there's just all these amazing rituals or whatever that you do in a football game. And my goodness, what a fun time. Just so much fun.
Yeah, absolutely. It was awesome. Okay, so let's get into it. First thing I want to talk about is the Steelers' new defense. And I say new because I know there's not a whole lot of new personnel, but as far as I was concerned, they looked a little more creative. They looked more attacking in this. And I get it. It's a very small, very limited example of just one game versus the Bengals. But I think the fact that they were more attacking and more creative is saying something when you consider that the Steelers have led the league in sacks the last 2 seasons. And year in, year out, if they don't lead the league in sacks, they're among the top 3 defenses in sacks. They love to create havoc and put pressure on the quarterback. But it's more than just sacks. It's that they were much more stout against the run. And I get it. I know it's only a small sample size of game 1 versus the Bengals, but they were more stout against the run. I'm seeing more pressure from the interior linemen, more penetration versus the run, more stunts and loops from the interior linemen versus the pass, versus just relying on TJ Watt and Highsmith to get pressure from the outside, which is what we're accustomed to in a typical 3-4 defense, right, from the Steelers. And I realize that part of that has to be a healthy Tyson Alualu, a rotation with Wormley and Montravius Adams. And both of them, theoretically, you'd have to think that both Wormley and Adams are at least going to be a little bit better than last year because they had a ton of experience last year. They've gone through a full year of learning the system, growing pains, getting coached up, right? They had the offseason, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, the addition of Larry Ogunjobi. And George, I got to give you credit because in like April or whenever it was, I can't remember, in the offseason.
A little bit later than that, but yeah.
Okay, the Steelers signed Ogunjobi, but it was to a 1-year deal. And you mentioned, hey, if this foot injury that he has isn't a big deal, then the Steelers got themselves a coup. They signed him to a 1-year, $5 million, $6 million, $8 million contract, whatever it was, versus I think the Bears wanted to sign him to like a 5-year, like $50-something million contract. And I don't know how much of that was guaranteed, but the fact is that, or the point is, I should say, he failed his physical with that foot injury he had. And so when he couldn't get that long-term big money deal, he signed a 1-year deal with the Steelers. And again, credit to you, because you said if he's healthy and this foot injury doesn't hold him back, we got ourselves a player.
Well, he's a big destructive man, you know, and that's sorely needed on that defensive line compared to the sieve that they were last year. But just the defense this past week, it was just, I mean, it was glorious. And I was waiting for the carriage to turn into a pumpkin right after the first quarter, and then and then the second quarter. And I know the second half wasn't as good as the first half, but they played 4 quarters and an overtime of good defense against one of the best quarterbacks and receiving combinations in the entire NFL. And I don't think it was just one thing, right? I think it was a combination of, you know, you got those new defensive coordinator and you got Flores, right? And we'll talk about that in a second. But you also have players at each level, right? You've got players in the defensive line. You got new players at inside linebacker. You know, Miles Jack was, I mean, you got Miles Jack and Devin Bush a year removed from an injury is way better than, you know, Spillane and Devin Bush coming off an injury, you know.
Yeah.
Significant upgrade in players. And then then go back to the secondary. You've got Ahkello Witherspoon now a full year. He didn't play till the end of the season last year. So now he's got a you know, second year there. You've got Levi Wallace coming in from the Bills. You got a more experienced Cam Sutton.
Yep.
And you know, I think the coaching staff, you know, Keith Butler made a comment about retiring a couple years ago. And you know that adage, if you start thinking about retiring, you should retire. What could he have possibly been doing those last couple of years that was fresh, that was aggressive, that was any of that stuff, right? And so, you know, you've got Flores and Austin in there, and I noticed that, you know, and this was manna from heaven for you. Look at either the all 22 or even some defensive highlights. Our corners weren't playing 10 yards back. Witherspoon was playing 3 and 4 or 5 yards back. Sutton was a little bit further back on the other side, but they weren't 10 yards back. That was beautiful. Yeah. So there was a lot different this past Sunday.
Yeah. And to your point, I'm really liking this defensive two-headed monster of Terrell Austin and Brian Flores versus Mike Tomlin and Keith Butler. Again, I know it's a small sample size with game 1 against the Bengals, but man, it's absolutely night and day. Okay, so you touched on it. You went from players in the defensive line to a linebacker to secondary. George, I'll let you run with this, but I just got to say, Minka!
You know, that interception he made, the pick 6, right at the beginning of the game, it looked like a cartoon where one of those big monsters comes and swallows up something whole, you know. He just devoured the football and was in. But the beauty of what the changes have done with all those players at each, you know, level, Minka doesn't have to worry about covering for the mistakes of the rest of the secondary and those inside linebackers this year. Minka can be Minka, right? Yeah. That's what I'm so excited about this year. I don't think that was you know, an aberration or an illusion. I think he's going to be, you know, you might see Minka's best year this year.
And really, that would be saying something, because his first and second year with the Steelers were phenomenal. Last year, he didn't make that many plays. And to your point, you know, he was
babysitting. He was covering for mistakes.
He's covering up for guys. He's covering up for your guy, Edmonds.
My boy, Terrell Edmonds.
Yeah, exactly.
5th round draft pick. I mean,
first
round.
Oh, no, wait, no. He was a first. Oh, God. Okay, before we go any further, George, I want you to pull your cap down just a little bit so everybody can see the logo on your cap. That is a sweet Superman Stillers logo. And I want everybody to see my shirt, okay? This is the not very well known but incredibly classic and awesome 6 seed shirts.
2005, baby.
Yep, from when the Steelers got the wild card berth in 2005 and were the first wild card team in National Football League history to win the Super Bowl. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, George. I don't remember what Super Bowl that was because the Steelers have won 6 of them, and I just, I've never been that
Super
good.
Bowl 40. You know which one it was.
Was it what? You know what, dude? You're talking Roman numerals and mathematics. My brain isn't that big. I just know that they won a Super Bowl. It was one of their 6. So it's good to be a Steelers fan, and it's good to be humble. Okay.
And it's going to be good when we get this Steeler merch up on your StillerFanTV website. But I digress.
True that. Okay, so we'll take one more take on the defense. I just want to get your quick thoughts before we transition into the offense, or special teams, I should say. Special teams, as Keith Jackson used to say. God rest his soul. Your quick thoughts on how they're going to overcome the loss to TJ Watt for at least the next 4 games.
Next man up. I hate that. I hate that cliche.
Every man who plays varsity ball gets a helmet. We expect him to have a superior in-stadium performance. That's the standard, to be quite blunt with you.
Oh, Coach cliche. That next man up cliche. If I don't hear it again, I'll be very happy. That will be manna from heaven, to use another cliche. But Malik Reed, he's going to be playing. We'll find out what kind of a player he is this week. And of course, they signed that linebacker off the Titans practice squad. But there's going to be a drop.
And they got Jameer Jones, who we're assuming that we got we got Highsmith on one side, Reed on the other, and then we got Jameer Jones, and the guy they just signed from the Titans practice squad is a theoretically a 4-person rotation, right?
And so there's a number of things you can do, right? And hopefully, maybe we can get pressure from our front 4. We don't have to just rely on linebackers and blitzing for pressure.
Yeah,
our front 4 is defensive line is as strong as it's been in a few years, and so Cam Hayward doesn't seem to be aging right now. He's playing his best football. But then you've also got
what as you say that.
Right. Yeah, no kidding. But maybe Malik Reed will make some plays. I mean, Highsmith's in his 3rd year, and I heard somebody on the radio, saying it was time to, give up on Highsmith, and I'm just like, good grief, let these guys develop.
Who said that?
Hold
on, let me finish that sentence for you. Some jackass. What? Give up on Highsmith? He had 3 sacks against the Bengals.
Some jagoff.
He played well last year.
Yeah, well, I mean, and
my blood pressure up here, George.
Yeah, 3 sacks this weekend, and he, I was looking at some of the moves. I mean, he looks like he added to his repertoire, and if Highsmith and Reed don't do it, if the front 4 doesn't get the pressure, maybe Austin and Flores will dial up some pressure with Miles Jack and Cam Sutton and some of the other players back there in the 2nd and 3rd level. So
yeah, I hope so. I would love to see Austin and Brian Flores X and O some stuff instead of Tomlin rolling the dice, going with his gut. Okay, that's a gem from yesteryear. All right, let's move to special teams. Boswell's his first field goal attempt in overtime. He missed that, of course, and then he made the second one on the very last play of the game as the clock ran out. He said on the miss, he said the snap and the hold were fine, but it just didn't go through the uprights, and that's the life of a kicker. And you, as a guy who was a former punt, pass, and kick champion, and a guy who was both punted and place kicked in college football, I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
Oh, I mean, you're going to miss some kicks. That was from 55 yards out. The ball had a weird rotation on it off his foot. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
That, and it kind of knuckled a little bit, but you're going to miss some kicks, and that's 55 yards out, right? If you're kicking from that far, I can't remember if it was at the hash or not, but you've got to be more perfect than you are from 30 yards out. You know, you can miss that a little bit and still get that in the upright. So it was a long kick. But, you know, I was really pleasantly surprised because, you know, you and I had this conversation after his off-season contract extension. You know, I was worried that could have a repeat of 2018. If you
Yeah,
recall, last contract extension he signed 2018, the following regular season, right after that signing, that was his worst year in the NFL.
he was awful.
13, 13
Awful by his standards.
right, right. In, you know, he was 13 of 20 that year in field goals, and keep in mind he's the fourth most accurate kicker in the history of the NFL. But he was 13 of 20 that year, and it was just an awful year by his standards. And you know, maybe there was an injury in there too, but I was just worried that you know, gosh, he signs this contract. Did he kind of get him some of the mental yips, or was he trying too hard, or was that contract putting pressure on him back in 2018? Did that cause any of those problems? I was concerned maybe that would, you know, raise its ugly head again this year if that was the issue. But you know, shoot, I aside from that miss from 55 yards out, you know, he hit the game winner from 53 and otherwise had a perfect day. So
Yeah. Now let's dive in a little more about that contract. Look, you and I talked about Omar Khan. He had a great summer. I thought he had. I thought he made a lot of great plays this summer. One of them was saying to Deontay Johnson and his agent, "Look, you guys are getting this 3-year extension for this amount of money. Your offer's on the table. I'm not budging." That was just one example of great business he did. I did not like the contract he offered to Boz. I thought that was the one glaring mistake that Omar Khan had this summer. He gave Boswell Justin Tucker money. Okay, now you said it. Boswell is. I'm going to take your word for it that he's the fourth most accurate kicker in the history of the National Football League. However, who's the most accurate guy? Justin Tucker. And Omar Khan gave Boz Justin Tucker money. Why?
yeah.
Why would you give him that kind of money? I don't get it.
Well, you know, I see your point in light of the fact that I think Boswell might have even made a comment to the effect that he was surprised that he got the contract.
Exactly, he did. He's like, wow, I didn't think I was going to get that much. I'm like, oh, wait, Omar, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, yeah. Maybe he could have saved, you know, $500,000 a year on the cap. I mean, I know it's not much, but you know, if you don't have to give him $5 million a year and you can get away with 4.3, you know, don't be lazy about it.
Yeah.
You know, sign him at 4.3 if he would take it. But
right.
You know, the flip side of that too, though, is if you're comparing him to Tucker, right? He's just under Tucker. He's just over Koo, the kicker down in Atlanta. So maybe that was part of it. Maybe, you know, Khan was trying to get it right in between Tucker and Koo. You know, because I mean, you know, is Boswell a better kicker than Koo? I think so.
Yeah, I think so, but I hate that. I hate that reactionary stuff. Oh, we've got the market dictated. No, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah. No, I understand, especially in light of what Boswell said about the contract.
I mean, when he was surprised, I was like, oh, I didn't think I was going to get that much. I was like, oh, Omar, come on, dude. You could have signed him $4 million a year. Don't give him $5. But all this whole overtime, Boswell missing the field goal, that point would have been moot if freaking Chase Claypool on that reverse would have stuck his foot in the ground, plant his right foot, and turn it upfield. Instead, he pulls up and jogs out of bounds. What is he doing? Yeah. Stick your foot in the ground, go upfield, get an extra 6 yards, get the first down, and get the extra yards for Boswell. So when he's kicking the field goal, it's not 55, it's 49. Yeah. What is that crap? Yeah, I was outraged when I saw that. Yeah. Absolutely outraged. It is lazy, sloppy. I didn't want to get hit. Dude, he's like 6'5", 200 some pounds. He's got a full head of steam. Why can't he run somebody over? Get the extra 6 yards for your team. What was that all about?
Yeah, Ryan Clark a year or so ago mentioned, after that Vikings game when Claypool, signaled for first down when we were trying to score at the end of the game there, that he was the most immature player he'd ever seen. And I'll give Claypool this. In the offseason, he appears to have taken some significant steps to grow up. He met with Brandon Marshall, who, I don't know if you know Marshall's backstory, but had some,
Brandon Marshall, a Pittsburgh guy,
some DBT issues, and I believe, and he's really overcome it to have a successful second career after football.
Yep.
He's on NFL.
For those of you who don't know, Brandon Marshall is in broadcasting now and
doing great. Doing great. It overcomes some personal issues and demons. And so he met with Brandon Marshall in the offseason and spent some significant time to say, hey, help me. I need to be better. I need to grow up. I need to do these things. And so, but that being said, there's something about a receiver who's built like Adonis and can run like the wind that Claypool can. That's still a bit of an enigma. There's plays that he seems to not quite finish the way you'd expect a guy as athletic as him doing. He might fall on the ground when he doesn't have to, or in your case, great example, running out of bounds. A guy that big plants his foot in the ground, cuts up or back, he's gonna get another 5 to 10 yards even after contact.
He should steamroll somebody. He's got a full head of steam.
Right. And if he does that, now you're talking about a completely different field goal, right?
Exactly.
And so those are winning plays, right? And so, if I was the receiver coach, one of my drills in practice the next week is, we're gonna do some out of bounds, foot planning type of stuff, just to take advantage of that athletic ability and size to get extra yards. Come on, he doesn't need to run out of bounds there.
Yeah, that's excuse me, that's a great point by you, but do we have to, if we have to coach that into a guy, that man, that's a mindset. If you don't have a tough Heinz board, I'm going to get the extra 2, 3, 5, maybe 10 yards for my team. If you don't have that tough mentality, I don't disagree with you. That I would run that drill too. But man, I'm concerned that he doesn't have that in his mentality.
Well, maybe there's these things like for receivers, toe tapping, going out of bounds, or smelling the goal line, or planning and cutting back, that are kind of instinctual things, right? Maybe he just lacks some of those really good football instincts that that great players have.
Maybe so. He is from Canada, so okay.
But hey, our Canadian friends, we love you too, though. So please.
I wish I had a Canadian flag.
Please tune in, eh?
To wave right now. I do like Labatt and Molson Golden, and
I live near Vancouver, BC.
I've been to Canada, and I love it when the guys
when
one guy checks the other guy into the boards. It's what's wonderful. All right, Mitch Trubisky. There was, I thought that he was a little bit better in overtime than he was in regulation. Maybe I can't point to specific examples of like maybe a play call. I thought that Matt Canada maybe got a little more creative and kind of unshackled him a little bit in overtime. Yeah. But I think that Trubisky got a ton of criticism from a lot of different people, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I thought he got a ton of criticism from a lot of Steelers fans, and I didn't think it was justified. The poor guy is running for his life every time he goes back to pass. Yeah. There is absolutely no running game. So there's no defense that looks at the Steelers preseason or game one against the Bengals that's going to say, ooh, I'm concerned about the Steelers running game and better to look out for that play action pass. When he goes back to pass, our offensive linemen, it's a fucking sieve. These guys resemble turnstiles. Trubisky's running for his life. And
Ole.
I thought that, you look at a guy's stats, he has 194 yards passing, he only has one TD, and you're not going to be overwhelmed by his numbers. But I know for a fact that his quarterback rating was top 15 in the NFL in week 1. And I know he didn't turn the ball over. And I know our offensive line is an absolute disaster.
Yeah. I mean, Trubisky, first of all, I'm surprised you didn't call him Mitchell. You called him Mitch. That's the first thing. I'm just surprised.
You mean the great Mitchell Trubisky?
The great Mitchell Trubisky. The great Mitchell Trubisky, who's the all-time career passer rating leader in the history of the Chicago Bears franchise, and the fastest quarterback to 10,000 yards in Bears history.
Hey, Bears fans, suck on that. I don't like you, Bears fans, and I don't like your team. So, wah, wah.
So, hey, Trubisky, he's not Ben. He's not going to be Ben. He's not.
And in some regards, thank God.
In some regards, thank God. But listen, that's a tough spot. You're going up against the defending AFC champions on the road. It's tough to win a football game in the NFL on the road. And if you'd have told me coming into the game that he wouldn't have thrown any picks, okay,
no fumbles,
and that without a running game, okay, and I, and that we would have won, I would have been ecstatic to take that.
Fair
okay.
enough.
And the people calling for, and part of the criticism for Trubisky isn't just about Trubisky. It's about Kenny Pickett, right? And anybody, who wants to get Pickett in there now, shame on you, okay? Because they don't need to, and he's a rookie. Let's not ruin his career before it starts, both mentally and physically, because that offensive line sucks so badly. Don't do that to a rookie. But, Trubisky was a game manager on Sunday. I don't want my quarterback, my franchise quarterback who's going to be here for 7 years to be that, but that's not what we're asking him to do right now. And I think Trubisky, he's still a young quarterback, okay? We talked about this in a previous episode. Sometimes it takes quarterbacks 5, 6, 7 years. Dan Fouts, Terry Bradshaw, Ken Stabler, I think we mentioned in the past. This is Trubisky's 5th year. Trubisky's issue, okay, has always been kind of mental, okay? He's got physical ability. He's a decent athlete. He's got a decent arm.
Yep.
And what I thought was really interesting, okay, is to juxtapose that play in overtime where he rolled left after the Bengals were offsides. If you'll notice,
by the way, rolled left because he was running for his fucking life.
Right. But he saw that flag, okay? And it looked to me, though, as he kind of took the shackles off on that play, running left, throwing right, and he let some of that athletic ability take over there and made a gorgeous pass. If he could somehow tap into that mindset, not just on a play where he sees a flag, but play like that all the time, a little more free mentally, because he's a good athlete with a good arm.
Yep.
Second pick overall, you might see some more of those plays, which he's more than capable of making.
Absolutely.
So,
and on that play you're referencing, for those of you who don't remember, guys, he rolled left again because he was getting chased down by like 5 black shirts who were about to rip him to shreds. And he sees Jalen Warren in the flat and decides, I'm not going to throw 4 yards in the flat to Jalen Warren. I'm gonna square my shoulders at the line of scrimmage, use my arm, and throw it to Freiermuth. Move! And that play got the Steelers a first down, and he got past the first down marker and got into field goal range for Boz. So, look, everything for Trubisky is new. New head coach, new offensive coordinator, new offensive line, new terminology, new offensive system, new wide receivers that he's got to form a rapport with. Okay, I'm not going to kill the guy because he didn't go 25 of 29 for 300 yards, 5 TDs, and no picks. All right, I'm willing to be patient. And if anybody
out there thinks that Kenny Pickett would have lit the world up on fire last Sunday, or even done better than Trubisky, you're out of your mind.
Yeah, they are absolutely mistaken. And to your point, there's no way they should throw Pickett in there with that god-awful sieve of an offensive line and get the kid killed, A, or B, ruin his confidence. All right, George, we got about...
Wait, and one more thing. I love Pickett, okay? He's going to be a much better quarterback than Trubisky at some point. But let's just not rush it and ruin him.
Everybody calm down. All right, George, we got a little less than five minutes left. The offensive line is an absolute disaster. They brought Mason Cole in as their new center. They brought in that Daniels guy, a free agent from the Bears. The Bears were happy to let him go. He sucks.
They gave Chooks $29 million.
Oh my God, they've spent. So I heard someone say, like, with Chooks Okorafor and Daniels at center, and Cole at center and Daniels at right guard, they spent $78 million in the offseason. Like, I don't care. They all suck. And I'm not sold on Moore, our left tackle, but it's his second year. But our offensive line is an absolute disaster, and it's been a disaster since Mike Munchak left and went to the Broncos. And that was, George, if you recall, that was 3 seasons ago. So we are now heading into our 4th consecutive year of an absolute shit show on the offensive line. So your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. It's a disaster. The one thing I will say, though, is that unit on a football team, the offensive line, more than any other unit, it takes time for them to gel sometimes, because they do work as a unit, right? More so than any other defensive unit. And so, it just makes me, hopefully, I mean, this is the hopeful side of me. I think back to 2008, right? When the Steelers won Super Bowl 43. If you remember, that was the Super Bowl where Ben held the trophy up and said, look who's laughing at us.
Hey, now, who's laughing now?
Who's laughing now, right?
That was Super Bowl 40. Was that the 6th one?
It was the 6th. It was the 6th.
I'm sorry. I get so confused. They've won so many. Sorry to interrupt.
The birth of Sixburg.
Okay.
But that season started out as a disaster on the offensive line. And so that's why Ben said that in the trophy presentation. The first 3 weeks, it was horrible. They won their first 2 games that year, but it all came crashing down in week 3 against the Eagles in an abysmal performance.
Oh my God.
Final
we watched that game together. They lost 34-7. It was in Philly. They got their asses handed to them.
No, that was a different game. It was 15-6 was the final in that game. It was
okay. All right, gotcha.
But there was
they got tortured. Our defense played its ass off that game, and the fact that it was 15-6 was an absolute miracle.
Right, and they looked as bad. I mean, there was as much Armageddon talk then as there is now about our offensive line. So hopefully, some adjustments can be made. They can start gelling and just gradually get better to be good enough to be a winning football team at the end of the year. So
okay, 2 minutes. It's a 2-minute warning, George. We're going to cover this more in depth tomorrow when we do a little more of a preview. But let's just take a quick look at the upcoming game on Sunday that you're going to at Acrisure Stadium. It's the home opener versus the Patriots. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, this is what, of all the times, right? If you're ever going to get Bill Belichick to play him, this seems to be the time where you're like, okay, this is when you want to play him. That team's reeling for the first time, and I can remember. The natives are getting restless, and here's just I got to put my glasses on for this, but here's just a few headlines up in New England to kind of give you an idea of what's going on there. So the pressure is on Matt Patricia in week 2. Matt Patricia is the offensive coordinator. That's the Ringer. It's a sports website. Another headline: Pats might need to pull plug on Matt Patricia. That's musket fire. That's fan-sided for the Patriots. And then here's from the Boston Herald: the Pats don't need a play caller in training. So, this is the hubris, right, of Bill Belichick. This is the ultimate example where Josh McDaniels, one of the best OCs in all of football and a staple in their organization, goes off to be the head coach of the Raiders.
The Oakland Raiders.
The Oakland Raiders. And who do they replace Josh McDaniels with? A defensive coach. That's the hubris.
I don't have a pencil, but I wish I did.
Nice. And
Yeah,
a clown's face on your shirt, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I look. It was kind of like a contest between him and Joe Judge as to who was going to be offensive coordinators. Absolute joke. So, hopefully the Steelers take advantage of that. Tomlin has a 3-7 lifetime record against Bill Belichick.